Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday. It is, like I say all the time, it is the best day of the week, our favorite day of the week, the day that we could just clock out, essentially. I don't really clock out ever, but whatever.
You too?
Well, when you're a business owner, you don't clock out. You could check out, but you don't clock out. It's kind of crazy. So today we have a fun episode. We're going to be talking with a radio personality who you may or may not know. And if you don't know, you probably haven't lived here long enough. And if you do know, well, we're going to be talking with him and kind of seeing what he's up to. And he's got some new things that he's up to. So yeah, we'll get to that in just a second, but you're listening to The T. All righty, Chris. So, tell us a little bit about you, for those that are not listening, or that are listening but haven't heard of you before. Right. Just kind of give us the quick about you and who you are and what it is you do.
So I've been in radio since towards the end of 1999.
1999, huh?
1999, right. Man. Did a stint at Planet Radio back in the day, then moved to Hot 107.9 after that, got out of radio towards the end of 2012, tried to make some money, some real money. That's a big misconception about radio people. Don't really make that much money. And so I got into the oil field, ended up going to crap, as most people know, and then got back into radio. I was working at Big 102.1 for a little while, doing some sales and marketing and some on-air stuff there. And then I made a jump to another popular top 40 station. And then I was let go last October. And here I am with Chris Logan Media.
All right. So it sounds like you were with, I guess, what is now considered Town Square Media for a while. That was like probably your largest chunk of radio personality.
That was. Yep. Okay. We were Comcore Radio back in the day, then Regent Broadcasting, then it turned to Town Square. Yep.
Okay. So what has, tell me a little bit about how radio since 1999, because I remember radio back in the day when I was a kid. In what respect, and kind of your thoughts and your opinion of how has radio changed and how has radio also stayed the same over the course of that couple of decades?
Man, how has radio changed? I think, one thing is, taking somewhat of a digital pivot, if you will. Whether it's apps or websites or creating content, social media, trying to be part of that side of things in ways that stay the same. I think for here locally, we can say they try to stay local as much as possible. As much as what's the higher ups let them do. They'll stay as local as they can, which is always the big thing about radio, man, just trying to stay local and serve your community.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of see. And I mean, whenever I was growing up, I would listen to the only radio station that I remember listening to was 94.5.
Dude, everybody did. That's all we had.
And look, I mean, and he might, if he's listening, he might find slight offense to this, or he might not. But I call him a pawpaw now because he was around way back in the day. Oh God. Oh, Bobby Novosad. Yes, come on.
Yep.
And the dude, he has not changed. No. I feel like he has not aged. And it's almost a conspiracy theory, at least in my opinion, that how has this guy not altered his appearance at all?
It's true, man. And look, mad respect to Bobby. Kind of like you, that I grew up listening to KSMB. I think we all did.
Yeah.
You record the songs off the radio on your jam box, listening to Bobby in the morning. They had Fast, who now works at 102.1. He was a night guy. And, those things and being in love with radio kind of got me wanting to be on the radio myself. I always loved music. My dad was somewhat of a mobile DJ back in the 80s, ended up buying some equipment. So he had a lot of 45s and albums, and that's where my love of music started, man. Just he would set up his DJ stuff in the garage, and I would mess around with it. So I was always into music. And my dad built houses. He still does that. And that's sort of what I thought I wanted to do back in the day, just following his footsteps. And I did every summer, dude. He'd wake me up, 5:30, go to work. And I graduated from high school. I did not go to college. I went straight to work with him building houses. And I graduated in 93. But still, when I was in high school, mid-90s, I was also DJing. Late 90s, I had my own mobile DJ company. I was doing weddings, private parties, and stuff like that. And then I was just kind of taken more towards the music side of my life. And I got out of building houses and sweating in the summer and sweating when it was hot. And like I said, got my foot in the radio late 1999. And then it's kind of all cultivating right now, in having my own media company.
So you mentioned it earlier. Radio personalities aren't necessarily rich,
right? Yep.
Look, I was under the impression, and I think a lot of people are, especially if you're in the entertainment business, any way, shape, or form, that you make bank.
Yep.
And it would seem like that.
Yeah. Major markets, yes. Markets around here, not really.
So would there be a market in Louisiana, period, that a radio personality is doing well?
Could make some money? I mean, maybe Baton Rouge or New Orleans. Another way that, you had opportunities to make money as being an on-air personality was like, endorsements, promoting products, doing commercials for people, even like doing live remotes. That was a big thing back in the day, because back in the day you had that theater of the mind when you listened to the radio. You didn't know, you didn't know what Bobby looked like. You didn't know what Fast looked like. You didn't know what Condon and LeBlanc looked like. You didn't know what Walton and Johnson looked like. You just didn't know, because there was really no place to see them. So when they have these live broadcasts at Capital Schwinn Cyclery or Burger Time back in the day, people went like in droves to meet their favorite personality person, and nowadays I think that's a little watered down due to social media, Facebook, websites. That curtain has kind of been pulled back a little bit. Yeah. But it was fun, man. And even, I came in a little bit late, it was like 22 years ago, but still, at that time, social media wasn't big in the early 2000s. Websites were just kind of gaining popularity. So you still kind of had that theater of mind. And when you went out to, go and do a live broadcast, you had people there to see you, shake your hand, and always wanted to meet you. And it was just kind of great being a part of the community, and meeting people like that all the time.
Yeah, man, being a kid, like going back to listening to 94.5 and listening to all the personalities, especially Bobby, always like, man, it'd be so cool to meet this guy. Like, and then every once in a while I would listen to Q95.5.
Right.
And I want to say that there was a DJ, Dobie Digital.
D,
not
man.
Digital, Dobie D, yes.
Dobie D, yeah.
Dobie Digital, the DJ Digital is like different.
Digital's different. Dobie, yeah, man. Yeah. Dobie is one of the coolest guys and one of the greatest DJs and a pioneer, really, around here. Yeah.
And so, like, I remember, like, coming to town, especially even, like, TV stations like KDC, even though you see their faces, we would come to Lafayette, our big day trips out on the weekend, and we would see some of these personalities, TV personalities, because we could visually see them. But radio personalities, I didn't know what they looked like.
Right.
But anytime we would see somebody who we thought was famous, essentially, so to speak, it would be just like starstruck. Like,
true.
I remember seeing a news anchor. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And they were just shopping in like JCPenney. And it was so cool.
Man, that's Deborah Terrabil. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's White Harris.
And I remember
that's Dick Farrow.
Yeah.
I gotta color the weather. You know what I mean?
I remember when my wife first saw Blue Rothfuss.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was starstruck. She's like, "Oh my God, that's Blue." Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, that's Blue." What? Like,
did y'all go talk to her?
No, she was hosting an event, but like we were there at the event. It was part of my wife's work, but the event was like bigger than just So it was kind of crazy. We got a comment real quick. Let's see. I hope it's a good one. All right, so the comment comes from Donna.
Okay.
So it says, he did a great thing starting the Planet Online, best station in Lafayette and beyond. Hashtag Chris Logan rocks.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, awesome. Testimonial there.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
Okay, so I've always wondered, and I guess I'm kind of putting on that persona, when you become a radio personality, you have to develop your voice, your on-air radio voice.
Right.
Don't
ask me how.
Don't ask. Yeah.
Look,
like, did you ever drive it? Like, were you ever driving in a car and just like to yourself and going 94.5?
No, man, no. Like, and that's the weird thing. Like, I never trained my voice. Now, look, I was born, raised. I still live in Church Point. My Chris Logan Media studio. That's still in Church Point. I drove here today to meet you from Church Point. I
appreciate that too.
Yeah, so no problem, man. Thank you for having me. But it's and when I would tell people that, they're like, "Man, there's no way you're from Church Point." And I'm like, "Yeah," because like, "Well, you don't sound Cajun." And I'm like, "Well, and it's just over time, I guess." Our voices are developed a little bit, and then I always tried to not be that fake guy, like I always wanted to be, when I was on the air, honestly, dude, that guy that someone would want to drink a beer with. That was always who I wanted to be. And I wasn't anybody special, obviously from a little town called Church Point, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of wanted to be that guy that somebody wanted to hang around with and cracked a few jokes,
Yeah.
We cracked a few jokes back in the day. Now you can't do that.
Yeah, you got to be careful with your jokes.
Yeah, because you're gonna upset someone. But it's so interesting that the way things have kind of evolved for me in starting my own media company and then starting the Planet being an online radio station. I kind of call it an online radio station, although I don't have an FM signal. I pretty much have everything else that goes with it, minus that.
Yeah, I mean, for the everyday person, calling it a radio station is kind of synonymous with just like audio on-air music.
Right, correct.
Whether it be online or on an actual physical radio, which I feel like those are dinosaurs now, but still is. So yeah, I call it a radio station.
Right.
Like, what do you call it? The Planet Online, the Planet streaming service? Yeah,
I call it... when I'm on the air or, our liners, sweepers, it just says the Planet. And a lot of times I call it the Planet Online. I didn't want to stick radio in the name at all, just because it wasn't on the radio. And obviously around here, a lot of people do remember that radio station from back in the day. That was a station that I really got my start on. I was a night guy for a couple years. And it was at that time in the early 2000s where rock music was the pop music. It was the, the Rocks, the Three Doors Downs, the Kid Rocks, all those bands were pop. That was what was on the top of the charts. Music, you ask a lot of music people or radio people, it comes in waves. Urban has its time, country has its time, pop has its time, rhythm formats, they all have their time on the charts. And early 2000s, it was rock's time. And bands were great. Ratings on the Planet back in the day were excellent. And it was a lot of fun. And then that went away. And, so I was let go, again, of the station that you mentioned a while ago. And look, it's not that I don't like to mention them. the reason I was let go, and I said this publicly before, I didn't get vaccinated, so I was terminated.
Okay.
That was their policy. At the time last year, I just really didn't feel that I needed it. I had COVID. For a year and a half, I was still testing positive for antibodies. That didn't seem to matter. They just wanted for you to get it, and I didn't get it. Again, I'm not some crazy anti-vaxxer person. I don't look down on someone who had it, not had it. I just felt it wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
And so I was let go. I took a leap of faith, and I started Chris Logan Media, and the bulk of what I do, and I was still held to my non-compete. So I got like no severance, and then I was still held to my non-compete for 6 months. So that's why I had to wait so long to do a station, which I knew I wanted to do, but I had to wait until my non-compete was up. So I started doing social media marketing, digital marketing for companies, and dude, that just like exploded for me. I was doing a few on the side before that exploded, doing some content creation for people. And, I think what helped a little bit, people found out the reason that I lost my job, and they wanted to support me. And that felt really good. So I did that. I have my own podcast studio, which, by the way, props on the space. I really like this.
Thank you.
So like the podcast studio that I have clients, that want to get into the podcast space, their businesses. Either I go to their office that looks something similar to this, has a nice, great sound, and we record their podcast there, or they come into my studio, we record the podcast there. So it's up to them. So I wasn't that aggressive with that as much as what I thought I was going to be, because my social media management stuff just really exploded. And, you said you don't clock out as a business owner, and I wasn't clocking out as a business owner. And then I ended up launching the Planet 4 months ago today. It was on April 12th. So today's officially our 4-month birthday or anniversary.
Wow. Well, happy anniversary there.
Thank you, man.
Before we get too much farther, I want to go ahead and tell you about our sponsors. So the first one, the Music Academy of Acadiana. They are Acadiana's top choice for music lessons in piano, guitar, voice, drums, violin, saxophone, all those beautiful instruments. You don't have to be too old or too young to get started. They teach students of all ages and styles. They've even sent students to college and to compete in major music competitions like American Idol and The Voice, if anybody still watches that. Kudos to the Music Academy, though, of Acadiana for even premiering on those. Those are really cool shows to be on. They've won several national and local awards. They have about 500 students in and out each month, so they have a ton of talent that goes through that building. They're locally founded by Tim Benson, who is a University of UL Lafayette music school graduate. Like, it's a tongue twister saying the whole thing. And their goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, and to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. You can go to their website, musicacademyacadiana.com, or their Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all those places to check them out and get enrolled. I mean, you can learn music at any age, honestly. And then we have The Orchard, who is our tech sponsor. Last year, we had a first-generation iPad mini that we were using and barely limping along, and it finally died on me. And so I reached out to The Orchard. I said, hey, could you help us? And we need a sponsor. We need a tech sponsor. How about we work something up? And so they graciously donated an iPad to us. Not the highest model of iPad mini, but it definitely helps, and it's working, and I'm using it now. So ultimately, their company is founded to be the only Apple authorized service provider in Acadiana. So what does that mean? Basically, Apple has granted The Orchard the good graces of being able to use genuine Apple parts and all this good stuff. So they'll fix your device up the right way the first time, and it'll be if it's under warranty, they'll use the warranty, and if not, you pay out of pocket. But it'll work right out of the box. So you can check them out. They have 2 locations in Lafayette, one by Buffalo Wild Wings on Ambassador, and in Karen Crow by Super One Foods. Their website is theorchardstores.com. You can get an appointment scheduled on their website and to get something looked at. So if you have a cracked screen, I would say give the Orchard a call and see if they can fix it for you. And we appreciate our sponsors. And let's get back to talking about the radio and the planet. I guess essentially the radio. I see. That's just how ingrained
it is. It is, man. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so I mean, it was always a dream of mine to own my own station.
Yeah.
And I thought about it and wanting to launch my own online station. And obviously, these days, I find the internet changed things. Man.
Oh yeah,
the internet changed things. We're talking about being that radio personality where you were behind the curtain and people wanted to see you, and you were almost like a celebrity. But to be a celebrity years back, pre-internet blowing up, you had to be, I don't know, man, a rock star, a musician, a TV person.
You had to be Tommy Lee, right?
Right, you had to be Tommy Lee in his third leg. But the internet and social media broke that, dude. Stale Cracker and DJ Red and Cajun Nerd Media, and it just made, if you wanted to do something and you wanted to put in the work, it was there. I feel COVID made this whole or kind of made everyone like these online hustlers, man. You can make more money doing stuff online or flipping garage sale stuff or drop shipping than you can flipping burgers at a fast food restaurant. It's just that the internet and the digital age, I think over the past couple years, really changed, and it's giving people the opportunity. I mean, look at you here, dude. You got a podcast on social media. You got an audio podcast. You ever thought you were gonna have that?
No.
I mean, it made it easier. I mean, look at your equipment. We used to pay thousands of dollars for stuff like that as mobile DJs. As mobile DJs, we used to go buy a $20 CD that we needed for a wedding.
Now you just go on your computer and just turn it on.
But that made it easier. It made it easier for people to become DJs.
The barrier to entry definitely has been lowered.
Yeah, I mean, your camera setup. You no longer have to go pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a camera. It's all readily available, and I think music consumption has also changed too. People are still listening to the radio. I'm going to give them that. But people are also consuming music through their device, and this is also giving people an opportunity to listen to what they want to. You're in the mood for Hank Williams Jr. Well, I mean, you can go to Hank Williams Jr. Radio or search on, you're in the mood for Three Doors Down. You just go and search for it. Like anything you want is here. You don't have to wait for it on the radio anymore. And it's not just radio. You missed Big Brother last night. You can go online and watch it again. It just changed that whole aspect, and that's why I think there's this digital pivot that everyone is trying to do. So, like, would I have launched an online station 5 years ago? No,
of course not.
No, I wouldn't have. But to do it now, absolutely. So
what's interesting, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast several episodes ago, so I don't even know what episode it was, but whenever I was a kid, we got our first computer at age 13. That was in 1999. I learned how to click the start button, and then it was over from there.
Yep.
I was interested in trying to figure out how to stream music on the internet. Now, this is before streaming was a thing. I even tried to figure out how to get my Waterboy DVD onto a website that I was creating, and I was designing this website to be able to play that DVD on the website. And I was like 14 doing this, and I was trying to get a DVD uploaded to the internet. And this is before anybody was doing that, and I was like, there's got to be a way for me to rip this DVD video and put it online. And I couldn't figure it out. I wasn't technically savvy. That I had the idea,
right?
But I was like, then Netflix comes out years later with online video watching. I'm like, and then YouTube. I'm like, dude,
right? Yeah.
if I just would have had just that little bit of extra knowledge of what I was doing, I could have been the next freaking billionaire. But things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, and then going back to the radio station that if you would have to do it online 5 years ago, you wouldn't. I had actually created a fictitious radio station name back when I was like 13, 14 years old called Pace. PACE radio. Okay. And Pace, obviously keeping the pace, Right. And I loved high tempo rock music. Right. It was early 2000s. Yep. Linkin Park, all those places. Yep. And I had designed this logo through Microsoft Word, the worst program you can use to design a logo, but I did it because that's all I had. And I was like, man, and then I had a wimpy little computer mic. I said, how do I stream like online? Like, how do I stream audio? So I downloaded this janky computer software that would allow me to stream audio. And it worked. I was streaming audio, but nobody was listening.
Right. Yeah.
Because
was it at like 28 kilobits or?
Oh yeah, it was like nothing. But that was also before social media.
Right.
And so I didn't know how to get my little radio station that I created online out to the public. Yep. And now with social media, you can create anything you want. And if you just have that drive, that push to get people there, to get people to see it, and you stick with it, it becomes something. Yep. Which is wild. It's wild today to see that.
And the internet just, I feel, also like level the playing field.
Yeah.
Level the playing field. So I do my main platform is through Live 365. That's really no secret. If anyone's,
well, yeah, it says it on your website and your
website, stuff like that. That's on the app. So that is my main platform. I use them, but obviously I pay more to have it as my own brand. So anybody can start a station, whether it's through radio.co or Live 365. You can start it. Minimal monthly investment, if any, but you have to go through the Live 365 app to find it. You have to go to their website, search, and find it there. Listen there. This way, everything's branded to my station. I pay X amount a month. I get X amount of total listening hours. I get the app and Alexa call. So I kind of have like the Cadillac package to make it my own. Now, the only thing when you launch the app, you'll see Live 365 at the bottom, because part of this and part of what they do and the monthly fee is paying the royalties. So they take care of ASCAP, BMI, all those fees. I don't have to worry about anything.
I was going to ask you about that.
I just pay my monthly fee, and they worry about that.
So,
but that's still a thing, it is.
Yeah. So you don't have freaking Metallica coming after you,
right? No, Metallica's not gonna be upset at me. They're getting their couple pennies,
The young crowd will not know what I'm talking about, but obviously this is in the days of Napster. When Napster first came out, that was so cool.
Yeah.
And then LimeWire with all the aids that it gave your computer and all that good stuff.
I was about to say your first computer virus came from some sort of sharing platform.
Oh yeah.
BearShare, LimeWire, Napster.
There was Morpheus. There was all these other things.
Morpheus, I forgot about that one.
Morpheus is kind of like before LimeWire. That was like that's when Napster was about to get shut down. So like everybody's like, oh crap, let's come up with a new program, Morpheus, and that's when the Matrix was popular.
Right. It was so great back in the day. I mean, it
was a wild west.
Yeah, it was, man. And that's another thing too. Just a personal opinion of mine. I feel the music industry got scared of the MP3 instead of embracing the MP3.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel the music industry could have been on the forefront of that and really grabbed hold of an MP3, but they hated it because they were just getting downloaded for free instead of embracing it and say, how can we monetize this? How can we make this our next platform to distribute music? But they just off the bat hated it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a reactionary. They didn't see the
future in it. Yes,
it was reactionary. Yep. Obviously, Napster disrupted the music industry in a way that nobody really saw coming.
I know, man. It was just like a pow.
Yeah, and I remember being in high school, early high school, and talking with a friend of mine. I was like, I want to know, like, how do I download music?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there was no way to do that, so I was downloading like MIDIs,
Yep.
and it sounded terrible. I'm like, I don't like this. I want real music.
Yep.
And then several weeks go by, months, and then my friend in high school comes and he says, "Hey, you got to come to my house." So I hop on my bicycle, because this was the early 2000s, man.
Right,
I hop on my bicycle. I didn't FaceTime him or anything like that. And I go to his house, and he shows me this software called Napster. And he was downloading Slim Shady and all these other things that were super popular at the time. I'm like, I said, "Dude, is this real music?" He goes, "Yeah, you can even preview it, man. Watch." So he obviously he had 56K.
Right.
So it took like a couple of hours to download a song, one song, a couple of hours.
Yes.
Now you click it and it's like playing right away. And it was the real song on his computer, on his e-machine or whatever it was. I'm like, dude, this is going to blow up. Like, I said, "How new is this?" He goes, "Man, I just heard about it." I'm like, "Bro, this is wild."
Yes.
And then I said, "Now I need to figure out how to burn DVDs. CDs." I said, "Oh, maybe I can ask my mom to give me like a CD burner. It's got to be like something where you can burn your own CDs." And then starts the CD burning era, where I was at school. I was.
Were you the guy? Were you the guy?
Dude,
that was
I was the
CDs
guy
for everyone?
slinging CDs. And I didn't even know how much to charge. It was like probably $5-10.
Right.
And then one of the guys, I went to a school that was pretty mixed, white, black, and one of my friends comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, can you make chopped and screwed music?" And me being the little white boy, and I'm like, let me go Yahoo that, because before Google, I went to Yahoo. I was like, "What is chopped and screwed?" And I listened to it. I was like, "This is amazing." Now I got to figure out how to chop and screw. I found a free software, and I slowed down the song, and I kind of like did the chop part, and it was awful. It sounded terrible, but he wanted a CD, and he paid me like $5 to make him a CD with the songs that he listed that he wanted chopped and screwed. So I did, and I gave it to him the next day. I sold it to him. I'm like, "Dude, I'm like hawking music. It's so wild."
Let me ask you this: how fast was your burner?
Oh man,
it was time. You had a.
I think at this one it was probably either a 4 or 6.
Okay,
it wasn't
right.
too fast.
Yeah.
It was.
It got up to what, 25 times?
Oh yeah,
50 times?
they've gotten a lot faster. But this was like one of the earlier ones, and it was like it was a Christmas present. So my mom and dad bought it. They probably wasn't sure what they were looking for. They probably asked,
grabbed one.
Yeah, and they were like, "Okay, this is it." And it was amazing, man. And I love that era of time, and then kind of connect the dots here with music, the early 2000s and 90s, all that stuff. That's kind of the era that we all kind of grew up in, at least most of us. Nowadays, if you're born after the year 2000, you probably aren't familiar, unless you're an old spirit.
Right.
But,
get some of that. And dude, that was one of the biggest reasons that I launched The Planet. Because, so I'm 46. I saw this on a meme somewhere, but I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, got drunk in the 90s. That's me. I'm Gen X. The 90s are a forgotten decade.
Yep.
Radio pretty much stops at 80s. The 90s are really nowhere to be found. Not many stations are playing 90s music, probably because some, consultant says that the music doesn't test. So they're really not playing it. And you think about it, the year 2000 was 22 years ago.
Yeah, it's not 10 years ago.
If you graduated in 2000, you're like 40 right now. Yeah,
and I graduated in 05, so I'm approaching it.
So, but it always was in radio trying to reach that 25, 54, 35, 54 money demographic, right? And that just stopped, because if someone's 34, dude, they were born like, in the 90s. I'm bad at math, but that 35, 54 demographic moved. Like I'm 47, I'm close to 54, and I graduated in 1993, but still the 80s are still dominating. The 90s are forgotten. I don't even know if the 90s will be played on the radio. It's probably going to be too late. Usher's, yeah, let's just throw that song out there from, 2003, 2004?
Yep.
That's almost coming up on being a song that's 20 years old.
It's almost a classic, right?
It's almost a classic, you know? Like some of the stuff I play, like the early stuff from Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, man, that's super classics. That's, Smells Like Teen Spirit was 91 when that was released.
Yeah.
31 years ago?
Man, okay. So when you say the word classic, this is the big confusing part of time is whenever I think about classic rock, for example, if I think about classic rock, where do you think my head goes?
Well, it depends. I mean,
I'm thinking Van Halen.
Right. You're still being fed Van Halen's, Leonard Skinner's, all stuff like that. But if you really want to think about it, classic would be 90s rock. Even into early 2000s rock would be a definition of classic, you know?
Yeah, I know. But I just hate, me being the person who was raised in the 90s.
Yep.
I hate putting the word classic on
front
something that I grew up on.
It's vintage, or I don't know what would be retro. I don't know what would be the right word. I also think there's somewhat of a the younger kids, like my son's 21. And before I launched the Planet, and he still listens to Spotify, Pandora. I mean, that was like his thing. He's 21. The radio honestly means zero to him. Zero. Yep. He didn't grow up the way we did. He didn't grow up listening to the top 8 at 8, trying to record his favorite songs or downloading them via Napster. Like that wasn't his thing. He could easily pick up his phone anytime he wanted to and listen to something. My daughter's 15, and I mean, she might listen to the radio if we have the radio on, but again, it's phones. But I forgot what was playing. It might have been Linkin Park or Foo Fighters or something. And I'm like, man, what you listening to? No, Foo Fighters radio and Pandora. So like kids his age, they're gravitating towards that 90s and 2000s rock. There's a local musician. I saw his son playing on stage at Cowboys, and there was a video. He was singing Three Doors Down, but that's older rock music, but the mainstream has failed to adjust that for whatever reason, and I feel that's a hole in an opportunity, which is why I did 90s and 2000s rock on the Planet, because I saw a lane there and I saw an opportunity and I decided to take it. So, there I'm playing the early 90s stuff. I'm playing the Soundgardens, Nirvanas, Pearl Jams, all the mid-90s stuff, the Lives, the late 90s stuff, Blinks and Lits and Green Days, and, the early 2000s stuff, the Three Doors Down, dare I say Creed and Nickelback, playing some of that.
Don't put Creed and Nickelback in the same sentence. Creed is legendary. Nickelback,
Yeah, I know. People tend to hate Nickelback, but if it's on, they're probably going to sing it. But, Creed, man, when they broke onto the scene, which was like My Own Prison, if I'm not mistaken, that was 97, 98.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I asked a buddy of mine that worked, on Planet Radio back in the day. I'm like, man, what was the biggest song that you were ever a part of? And he said, Creed, My Own Prison. Because I had got asked that question, man, what was the biggest song that I was ever a part of on the radio? And it was Evanescence, Bring Me to Life.
Wow.
That was as for real reaction from people, like not the fake countdown, not the fake request list, like here's our most requested song of the day. I mean, like Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. I remember doing that song. It was on the 9 o'clock news. And when we played it, when I say the phones blew up constantly, man, like it won our 9 o'clock news every night. we ended up bringing them to, I think it was the Mardi Gras Festival at Cajun Field. Like that was huge. Just, I mean, a sea of people were out there to see Evanescence. And that was kind of the biggest song and artist that I've been a part of pretty much in my radio career. The other one, I brought up Usher's Yeah. I mean, that was a huge song. And we had played that on Hot whenever it broke back in the day, and that's another I consider a classic. That was a big viral song.
Yeah.
But Evanescence, Bring Me to Life was huge.
Yeah, and the music video was pretty epic too.
That was cool. And then they had the dudes from 12 Stones.
Mm-hmm.
They
were they from New Orleans?
Yes. Yep. I think the dude's name, don't put me on the spot, I think it was Brad. Was the guy who did kind of the rap rock version in the middle of it, but it was awesome, man. So I'm trying to bring back not only that nostalgia from the planet, but just bring back the nostalgia of all that music, man, and all the messages I get from people saying, thank you for doing this. It's so great to be able to hear this music again. Had a couple people tell me that they canceled their Sirius XM subscription because of the station, because they were listening to like lithium, pop rock, stuff like that, because there was no place to get that. And they said, man, I canceled my subscription. Thank you for launching this. So it's been really great, man. I had this one girl message me very early on when I launched, and she said, you brought me to tears. I recently lost my dad. And she said, we used to listen to this music when he dropped me off at school. And she was like, it brought back. So like, I'm getting the goosebumps now, man. And like, those are the things when you asked what didn't change in radio, I hope that never changes. Like that, just those things, man. Like, always getting that story from a listener, getting that email from a listener about something you said or something you mentioned, or, like that's always the message I got from that girl, that lady. It is, it's going to stick with me. And I'm like, man, so getting all that positivity, I'm like, okay, I know I did something right. And then the platform. So I have the apps for Android, iPhone, Google Play,
and then you have iHeartRadio and all that.
iHeart, yep. So that all came with my package. Alexa, you can listen there, and you see, so like I have my website, listentotheplanet.com. So, and you and I were talking about this before we got on the air. Naming it the Planet. So, Planet was not only here back in the day. There's still Planet radios now. The original Planet Radio, where I dare say they got the name from back in the day, but that's in Jacksonville. Okay. That was one of the original Planet radios to launch, and that station is still there. Not totally doing 90s and 2000s. They're doing some, but they're mixing it in with some newer rock. So there's other Planet radios. There's other The Planets. There's some Planet Rock radio stations. So it was kind of difficult. I had to get creative to name my app, name the website, because we also live on the planet. So, I mean, a lot of those domain names were taken.
Are taken, yes.
Yeah, so, but I was able to get listentotheplanet.com. And so Facebook, Instagram, that's kind of Listen to the Planet. So everything kind of follows that. And, searching for the App Store, Google Play, Listen to the Planet. So everything follows that, because I had to kind of take a step back from the radio stations that still exist that are called the Planet. Because I had a buddy of mine, man, I'm trying to get you on Alexa. And he's like, I got it. Who's the guy you got in the afternoon? And I'm like, dude, it's me. Like, I'm only doing the morning show. He's like, no, man, you got somebody in the afternoon. I'm like, no, I'm like, my voice girl. It does that. No, man, there's some dude in the afternoon. And I'm like, wait, you listen on Alexa? Yeah. I'm like, well, what did you say? Well, I said, Alexa, play Planet Radio. And I'm like, dude, you got some Planet Radio stations somewhere around the country. So like with Alexa, you have to enable the Planet Online skill. Then you say, Alexa, play the Planet Online. That way it's not going to pull up any other Planet radio station. But I thought that was funny. He's like, no, man, you got somebody on the afternoon. Who you got? And I'm like, no one. Let's figure out what you're listening to.
It takes some education, I guess, to kind of allow people to use, especially the Alexa, because sometimes Alexa can mishear you.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of comments again from Donna again. So whenever we were talking about the definition of classic. She says, whenever I think of classic rock, my brain goes to the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was mentioning. You know, it feels like
that's where your brain wants to go to, you know.
And then as we were talking about Evanescence, she mentions Evanescence is amazing to see live.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of live, I went to, I think it was one of my only concerts that I ever been to. It's sad to say this, but it was a good one. It was in the early 2010s. Okay. It was at the Cajun Dome.
Okay.
And it was multiple artists.
Okay.
I'm keeping it discreet because I want to see if I can jog your memory on that concert. Do you have an idea of where I'm going?
Was it Three Doors Down, Chevelle, and
You're close. You mentioned one.
was it Kid Rock?
So it was the Madness Tour.
Okay.
And it was Shinedown, Chevelle, 10 Years, Seven Dust.
Seven Dust, yeah.
And I think there might have been another one.
Okay.
I think there was like 4 or 5.
Okay.
But those 4 for sure. And I remember my cousin telling me, hey, I want to go to this concert, and they have Shinedown. And Shinedown, that's when they were like peaking. Like they were blowing up around that time. And their album, I forget the name. It might have been just a self-titled album. It was white, and I think it had like a crow on it or something. And one of those songs has the crow. And and just hearing all the different bands and Seven Dust, I was super into Seven Dust.
Yeah.
And I loved that it was, at the time, one of the few rock bands that had a black lead singer. And I was just enamored by it. I loved that and the sound. And so he said the tickets are about $60. I said, that's not that bad.
Right.
I'm a single guy.